hijackers, armed with box cutters, take over 4 passenger planes flying in the American skies. 2 of these planes are crashed against the Twin Towers in New York, the 3rd plane hits the Pentagon, and the 4th one is crashed intentionally by the passengers in an open field in Pennsylvania. The Twin Towers later collapsed due to a structural failure caused by the impacts and the ensuing fires, killing some 3,000 people. This is, by and large, the official version of the events of 9/11 as told every year by the mainstream media all around the world. But how much do you really know about what truly happened on September 11? And I'm not talking conspiracy theories here. I'm talking about simple, verifiable facts that somehow have gone unnoticed in the big narrative maelstrom that has been 9/11 ever since. Besides the Twin Towers, a few hours later, also Building 7 collapsed. It was a 47-story steel skyscraper located right behind the North Tower. The official reason for the collapse was the fires that ignited in Building 7 after it had been hit by the debris of the collapsing North Tower. So we have a first exceptional event for that day, in which the terrorists have managed to entirely destroy 3 skyscrapers with 2 airplanes only. Only one of the many miracles that took place in New York on that day. Aside from September 11, no steel skyscraper in history has ever collapsed due to fire. Steel skyscrapers simply do not collapse due to fire. They are built for that purpose. You can search as long as you want. You'll never find another steel skyscraper fully collapsed due to fire anywhere in the world. But apparently, the laws of physics were suspended on September 11, and a few isolated fires, not even huge after all, were sufficient to bring down a 47-story steel structure in a little over 6 seconds. This is the public announcement by the police.
At about the same time, when CNN recorded the explosions near Building 7, they also captured the police, clearing the area and announcing the collapse.
Keep your eye on that building, it'll be coming down.
The building is about to blow up. Moving back.
Back here. All right, guys? Sorry.
We are looking back. There's a building about to blow up.
You heard them. They said the building is about to blow up, which really doesn't leave much room for interpretation. And this is the witness to the actual countdown.
First responder Kevin McPadden was stationed near Building 7, awaiting for orders from a Red Cross representative.
He kept asking the Red Cross rep, what's going on, what's going on? And all the time he had his hand over the radio while he was getting a countdown. And then he's just like, at the last 3 seconds, he takes his hand off and you hear 3, 2, 1. And he had this like heartbroken face. He's just like, just run for your life. It was about a second or 2 after the countdown ended that you started hearing the explosions. Explosions. Now, we're talking about bombs.
This first responder talks about bombs, but the official version keeps telling us that the building collapsed due to fire. You decide what you want to believe.
Good morning. I'm here to summarize the findings from our 3-year study of the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7. Before I tell you what we found, I'd like to tell you what we did not find. We did not find any evidence that explosives were used in the collapse of Building 7. We ran down detailed computer simulations of blast scenarios. This size blast would have produced an incredibly loud sound that was not recorded on videos of the collapse nor reported by witnesses.
You want to call your mother or something? You gotta get back. I know that. You gotta get back. All right. I know.
Was not recorded on videos of the collapse nor reported by witnesses.
You want to call your mother or something? You gotta get back. I know that. You gotta get back. All right.
Keep your eye on that building. It'll be coming down.
Despite all the warnings received about an imminent attack with hijacked airplanes, on that morning, the military had decided to organize so many military drills at once by sending most of the fighters to Canada and Alaska that only 4 jets were left in order to defend the country, which was openly under threat.
The morning of September 11, only 4 planes were armed and ready to intercept terrorists in the eastern region of the country.
I've determined, of course, that with only 4 aircraft, we cannot defend the whole northeastern United States. That was the sensation of frustration, of I don't have the forces available to do anything about this.
Obviously, when you have 4 hijacked airplanes flying around and you only have 4 jets available to chase them, you'll always be one step behind. By 9:03, when the second tower was hit, not only the military but the entire world knew that America was being attacked by hijacked airplanes. And yet, the generals in charge, Everhart and Myers, allowed the military drills to continue until after everything was over. They did not feel the need to recall their fighters immediately. One wonders why.
He was a hijacked aircraft. He is not a hijacked aircraft. He's taking precautionary measures and he's landing at Cleveland Center.
Only after the Delta flight had landed were the war games finally suspended.
Hello, this is Captain Paris on Cheyenne Mountain Patrol. Yes. What we need you to do right now is to terminate all exercise inputs coming into Cheyenne Mountain.
By then, also the 4th hijacked airplane had been turned into a pile of smoking rubble.
Before an inquiry of any kind was even opened on the events of September 11, General Myers was immediately promoted to a higher rank.
Richard B. Myers, despite the total breakdown under his leadership, was promoted to chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest military post in the country. On September 13, confirmation hearings were held for General Myers as if nothing ever happened, while people were still being pulled alive from the rubble at Ground Zero.
One must say that the American military has a unique way of punishing those responsible for the mistakes made in defending their own nation, don't you think?
In August 2005, the New York Times published 12,000 pages of oral histories rendered in the voices of 503 firefighters and emergency personnel who were present at the Trade Center on September 11. Over 100 of them, 1/5 of the total, has reported explosions in the buildings prior or during the collapses.
But the mainstream media keeps telling us that the towers collapsed because of a structural failure.
What channel is that, pal? Is it live? 631-226-9595. Tell my sister I'm okay.
What happened? He was in the explosion. He was in the lobby and the 3rd explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
Like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Is that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the
planet probably?
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion. But we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on our way upstairs, the whole fucking thing blew. And we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary?
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one was terrible. Then there was a 3rd one too after that one.
Explosion after that?
Yes, sir. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And they exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
And if the just mayhem after that?
Just man, everybody tried to make their way out.
Just trying to help all the brothers get out.
A lot of people trapped inside.
I was sitting in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, close to Brooklyn. We watched the first explosion. As we were watching the building, I saw a black, very large airplane fly right into the second building. It came out of the south, right in front of our eyes. Just, it was so surreal, like a movie set.
Second and third explosions also, right?
We were in the building for the third one. It just collapsed. I was on this drive here for the other one.
Just trying to find anybody to lead the way out the building.
Beg your pardon?
Everybody will make it.
I'd say like 50% of what units that were on scene.
So far, everybody's
A lot of people in that building.
Take off your jacket. You just trying to leave your way out.
Open up your jacket. You're going to hydrate there.
People that understand. There may be more. Any one of these fucking buildings can blow up. This ain't done yet.
This is on top of this. It couldn't be no worse than this. Couldn't be nothing no more worse than this. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside the building. So I don't think we get any worse than this. Tyrone Johnson. Flat Company 24.
So who are you trying to get a phone call to? I'll keep hitting redial.
My sister. 631-226-9595. Tell her I'm all right. Jimmy Grillo.
The overwhelming evidence presented in said petition demonstrates beyond any doubt that pre-planted explosives and/or incendiaries, not just airplanes and the ensuing fires, caused the destruction of the 3 World Trade Center buildings, killing the vast majority of the victims who perished that day. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Fire Commissioners of the Franklin Square and Munson Fire District fully supports a comprehensive federal grand jury investigation and prosecution of every crime related to the attacks of September 11th, 2001, as well as any and all efforts by other government entities to investigate and uncover the full truth surrounding the events of that horrible day.
The New York firemen lost about 300 of their brothers in the collapse of the Twin Towers. Maybe it's time all these victims and their families receive some justice, don't you think?
In any case, it's not true that no explosions were recorded by video cameras. In this shot, for example, a series of loud concussions can be heard just before the collapse begins. On the left, covered by smoke, is the South Tower moments before the collapse. And then there were several explosions recorded after both towers had collapsed, like this one from this BBC video.
This one was recorded after both of the Twin Towers had collapsed and before Tower 7's collapse.
This recording was made between 10 and 11 o'clock. The explosion came from the direction of Building 7.
You gotta get back from here. You know that. You gotta get back. All right, smoking. I know.
But the mainstream media keeps telling us that the 3 towers collapsed because of a structural failure. This means the explosions we just heard must have come from some kind of celebration down in Chinatown. There are actually more than 3,000 members of the Association of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth who claim that the 3 buildings could not have collapsed because of a simple structural failure. They claim instead that for the buildings to collapse in the way they did, some form of controlled demolition must have been used. All these people have obviously nothing to gain by taking this position, and they got everything to lose.